Now that we have both of our legs sewn at the inseam, we need to do a seam finish on it, something that would prevent it from fraying. Now, if you're doing the joggers, you're making it out of a knit. Knits don't typically fray, but we do want to do something that makes it look really nice. So we're going to serge those seams there. Some of you did this when we did our drawstring bag, but others this might be new, so here's how it goes. These are our sergers. They're up against the whiteboard. If there is a smiley face behind it, that means it should be working and everything's in good order. If there is a frowny face behind it, it means that there is usually a threading error, and that's the indicator to me that I need to come and rethread it. Typically what you'll see if it's not doing what it's supposed to is just these straight threads that come off of your machine, just like your regular one. What we want to see are loopy threads, ones that are all kind of chained together. And if you have that on your serger, that's kind of a good indicator that it's gonna work for you. Now, as you come over, there are a couple of guidelines to know when using the sergers. First off, number one, do not use presser foot lifter. There is a presser foot lifter, but it looks pretty much the same down as it does up. And we know from our regular machines that if we don't have it down, then it doesn't sew correctly. So we always just leave it down. But how do we get our fabric in there? Good question. What we're going to do is we are literally picking up our presser foot and putting our fabric underneath there. I like to have it just about the same edge as this lip right here. Right here, this is a blade, and it's going to move up and down as I'm sewing, and it's going to cut off any extra stuff. So any little threads that might be hanging out over the sides, or if you're using a woven fabric as it starts fraying, it'll cut that part off. So we're just going to kind of ignore the loop that's back here. We can cut that off later. So it goes faster than a regular machine, which can be kind of scary and intimidating to students, but I promise it makes it look so good. So what we're doing here is we are just sewing on the edge of our fabric. It's okay to cut off the notches once you get there, but basically we're going to line up our straight stitch with the edge of the presser foot on the left side. And you can see it's cutting off a little bit of fabric, and that's fine. This is perfectly fine, just this little bit. When you are cutting off your entire seam allowance, that's not okay. We don't want that. We still want that straight stitch to be the one that actually holds everything together. Again, this is just a seam finish. It's just what we're doing to the edge of the fabric to prevent it from fraying. Now, as I get to the end of my stitching, I'm going to adhere to rule number 2. Continue serging to leave a thread tail. Do not pull fabric or thread out. On our regular machines, we could lift up the presser foot and just pull this away, but there's 4 threads in here, 2 needles. We don't want to be doing any of that because it's going to cause it to break. So I'm just going to keep sewing until basically my fabric falls off over the edge. At that point, I can cut my thread here, or I can continue serging and let the blade cut it off for me. I still have a little bit of a thread tail there, and that's no big deal. I have scissors nearby, so I can just cut that off. Usually at the beginning, you have a bigger thread tail. You can cut that off as well. Make sure that you know that when you are serging that your seam is finished. Unpicking a serge is terrible. Please make sure that you are prepared for it and that that in fact is the correct seam that you need to do so that you can have a pretty seam finish. So this is what is often used in industry to finish the edges of clothing. You might have seen some of this on your own. So you're going to do this with both seam allowances of the inside layer of your pants from step number 1.